Record. All right, Clay, I'm going to turn it over to you to catch us up on what was the last couple of weeks in Montgomery.
Well, thank you, Paige, and I apologize for the noise. There's some yard work being done out there, and it's a little loud, so my
Well,
apologies.
and I was going to do the same. I'm going to put myself on mute because they are laying central access broadband for us this week. So,
Love it. Love that. Um, well, a lot of activity in the legislature since we last talked. There is, thank goodness, only 5 legislative days left, so we are in the short rows now. Our workforce package, of which is our number one priority at BCA this year, is making its way through the Growth Alliance, the Workforce Pathways, and the Workforce Transformation Act have been passed out of the House and out of the Senate. And so they are in phenomenal shape. The tax credits, the child care tax credit, and the housing tax credit passed out of the House. Really great votes there. I think the momentum's on our side. We're waiting on committee work there. Obviously, the education budget is upstairs now, and the general fund is downstairs. So certainly um, I imagine it will be kind of tied to that budget when those are moving. Still need to keep the pressure on, particularly the child care. One of the things that I think I mentioned in the past that has kind of been a little bit of a snag has been the numbers came in for the overtime exemption bill, and they were much, much higher than expected, than labor had predicted. That's a good segue kind of to talk about, obviously the Workforce Transformation Act is repurposing kind of and retooling the Department of Labor. So it'll be called the Department of Workforce. And we're hoping that not only do we get the benefits of someone being in charge of workforce, but maybe a side effect is, helping improve the Department of Labor, of which your member organizations, I mean, I know when I was in the Senate, we got a lot of complaints dealing with them, and there needs to be some work done there. The Innovation Districts Act has been shrunk down considerably, and renamed the Research Corridors Act. Those two bills are actually, we're just pumping the brakes on those. A whole new bill is filed by Senator Wagner. This will apply to Class 1 municipalities, i.e. Birmingham. So that's a way that we can kind of test it, see if it works, without going full bore statewide. So that bill is different. That's the Research Quarters Act. So that's SB 336, if I'm correct. Yeah, SB 336. So the union bill, that was SB 231. That's the bill by Senator Orr. That bill has passed both chambers now. That's the bill that make sure that companies don't actually assist the union, which we don't know that ever happens, but it certainly gives some companies cover that may be international in nature, that their mother company is a little softer on unions. It guarantees a private ballot so that the employees are not intimidated. That's what, you've heard of card check, and a lot of northern states where there's a lot more union activity, card check is definitely a thing. And a lot of employees are very intimidated to vote against the union. So this will guarantee that those employees are guaranteed a private ballot, and the company also, it gives them the cover that they cannot turn over employee information uh, to the union until a vote has been certified, or excuse me, to an election has been certified. So that's some additional protections for those employees, and we think will hold down some intimidation there. Obviously, this is all tied to incentives starting in 2025. We certainly did not want any companies in Alabama who are already unionized to be in any risk of losing their incentives. So we really kind of pared that down a little bit to just provide them with some safety. Um, there's on the kind of defense front, we testified in committee last week. Caroline Franklin did a great job, and it's not the topic was not anything that you really want to discuss. It was harmful content, but really what it is pornography. Um, and it is Chris Sale's bill. Essentially, what it did was it forced device makers to put filters on there. Now, the device makers say that that's very difficult to do, and that having 50 individual bills around the country makes it almost impossible to do. We obviously don't think it is appropriate to put uh, undue mandates on companies who are not causing the problem. The pornography industry are the ones that are putting out this filth, and they should be held accountable. So we supported another bill that required that's actually passed, that required the companies, the pornography companies, and I sorry y'all, I hate talking about this, but requires them to put age verification on it. So you're actually holding the people responsible that are putting this stuff out, and not companies that aren't. And so we spoke in opposition to that. There's a good chance that that bill could pass, because I mean it is an emotional issue. Obviously, we want to do everything we can to support and to protect our children, but not at the expense of companies and businesses that who don't cause the problem. That certainly is a running theme for BCA, and where we are. Good news. All of us get to take a victory lap. The PBM is dead. The PBM is dead, and y'all had a tremendous amount of impact on that. I can't thank the chambers enough for helping us get that out. Members of the legislature heard from the business community loud and clear that they were not in support of this bill, that it would have an adverse impact on them and their employees. And again, this is what happens when we cumulatively push back and educate and have our members calling the members of the legislature and telling them their stories and telling them how it will impact their business. This is a great test for us and a great win, and I can't thank you enough, Paige, and all of you at the chambers for pushing this out and making sure that your member organizations knows how it's going to impact them, their employees, and their bottom line, and certainly their employees' pocketbook. I really think we did the legislature a favor on this bill. I do not think for a minute the other side was telling them the truth. When you look at how that bill was written, it didn't spell it out. It referenced certain code sections, it was obvious that they were trying to hide the truth. I mean, they kept coming back and saying that nowhere in this does it say that there's going to be a $10.64 filing fee. No, it doesn't specifically say it, but it references the code section that says it. So we fully expect these battles to continue to happen. And again, as y'all have heard me say, we fully support our pharmacists and need we have to for economic development purposes need a strong pharmacy network, but we can't do that at the behest of people's pocketbooks and businesses. Um, and that Caroline got me that the other harmful content bill was HB 164 by Ben Robbins. That was the bill that we actually supported and think that is the more appropriate fix on the harmful content. Um, Tort reform, that bill, it's just, it's run out of time as well as we predicted it would be. It's just too big of a bill to be filed midway through the session. We really have our work cut out for us over the next several months to try to first of all, get a feeling from the business community if tort reform is what they want to focus on. I sense that it is. I think that the governor is probably interested in this as well. Please, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but we've had initial conversations with her staff. And then bringing all the groups together, whether that be truckers, whether that be retailers, whether that be the medical association, the business community as a whole, and saying, what do you want to see? What do you need to see in tort reform? What will be a fair bill that will bring fairness to our tort climate? And I think if we're correct and the business community wants to go that route, there's going to be a tremendous amount of work between now and next session to go into that. A lot of research, a lot of information that we want to put together that can arm you and arm your members with what is actually happening out there with our tort climate. I was joking. I said we could name this Operation Billboard. So UAW. As y'all probably saw, they have called for an election, and then LRB has certified that. The election at Mercedes will begin May the 13th, run all week through the 17th. They also agreed to 7 polling places within what I call the mother plant, the big plant, as well as the battery plant. So 5 locations at the big plant, 2 locations at the battery plant. We are working feverishly. We are actually had a really good conversation with a national firm that we're seriously thinking about bringing them in. I would like to have them on a flight to Tuscaloosa tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So it's serious. It's here. You probably saw the Volkswagen vote in Chattanooga. Last Friday, I went to bed just demoralized. 73% of those employees voted to unionize. The difference here is Volkswagen did nothing. Volkswagen was completely neutral. They did nothing to get information to their employees. They were simply neutral. Our counterparts in Tennessee really only did a bare minimum. They went into the field a couple of weeks before the vote. Governor Bill Lee showed up, I think, the week prior. It was just too little, too late with no real opposition against. That's why you saw that number so overwhelmingly. And those employees, I'm certain, history will be the judge, and they will regret that decision. Good news came about Wednesday. a Nissan plant in South New Jersey. So that's New Jersey. That is a pretty heavy union state. Voted 2-1 to decertify the union, the UAW in that plant, meaning they voted to leave the UAW. That is significant, and we are using that. Um, so what we're kind of doing now on our front is we're sort of shifting focus that BCA, we're going to continue to provide air cover. We have alerted the state of Alabama, our elected officials, the business community of this impending invasion. Now that they have invaded, the local chamber and the employee committee are on the front lines. We cannot run this out of Montgomery. It has to be run out of Tuscaloosa. We have to stop their momentum now. And so we are uh, providing resources toward West Alabama as much as we possibly can, helping to connect them. The good news is the Volkswagen vote, I think, really kind of shook everybody. And so we have had calls with uh, the National Chamber of Commerce or the U.S. Chamber this week, cobbled together a ton of experts, and we had a great call with them this week. But we are certainly not giving up, and we're not going to I woke up Saturday with a new perspective, and we're certainly not going to be demoralized. We're going to continue with Alabama strong and provide the resources to West Alabama, because if Mercedes falls, um, then Hyundai, and then they found some they found some cards at Airbus last week. So it's going to come, and it's going to come to your communities. It's going to come to your suppliers. They're going to be next. We're obviously working. Sharon Rose and the Montgomery Chamber is doing a phenomenal job. They have signs. We deployed some signs to Tuscaloosa yesterday, yard signs and 4x8s. We continue to remain on the air, on the radio, but having this firm come in, I think, is going to be the best thing for us to provide frontline support, that they can get up every single day and focus on defeating the UAW at Mercedes. So with
Clay,
that, leave it open for questions.
yeah, Clay, Nan has a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey Clay, thank you so much for that update. And you sparked my curiosity. I know Steve Ammons has been talking to you and others. Um, and you mentioned something about the other chambers where we have tier one and tier two suppliers that could be next and greatly impacted. Um, what is it that you want or need us to do specifically those chambers that can be greatly impacted by this?
So first of all, have constant communication with those suppliers. If they see if they see any activity, if they find any cards, if there's any troublemakers around, what they're doing this time, which is much more effective. This is what makes it different. Is used to, you would have actual UAW people going into the plants to organize. They are staying out. They are allowing employees, they are training employees of those companies. So it looks more grassroots, but it is certainly the UAW that is training them on what to say. And obviously, they're coming in there and they're saying, um, they're saying, making all kind of promises. We'll get you higher wages. We'll get you better benefits. They don't have to follow through on a single promise, and oftentimes don't. And that's one of the reasons why that Nissan plant voted to decertify is they not only didn't come through on their promises, but they've made it much more difficult on the employees to make safety to safety complaints or anything like that. Now that has to go through a third party, and a lot of those just weren't happening. They were also very upset because the union leadership within that plant were the laziest. They sat around, they really didn't do anything. And so there's a lot of stories out of there about that. But right now, just maintain constant contact with those suppliers and let us know if there is any activity in those areas. What I'm hopeful to do is when we bring in this firm, that we can create a template that we can replicate throughout the state. So if there's an issue that pops up at Airbus, we can take that template and move to Mobile. If it pops up at Mazda Toyota, we can take that template and move to Huntsville. But I also think that everyone needs to be thinking about uh, if you have those suppliers in your community, you probably ought to think of a fundraising campaign, some way, allies in your area that you could call on to help you bring in resources. The quicker we have those resources, the quicker we can get in the field. Also, one of my goals is if we can beat this back, or even if they score some wins, we have to be prepared. We have to have money set up in an account, resources in an account that we can spring to action immediately and get in the field as quickly as we can. And by resources, I mean we need as a state organization to have $500,000 to $1 million at the ready to be deployed. We have, this is not going to go away. They're going to continue this push because this is where those dues are. This is where those jobs are. They ran all these companies out of the Rust Belt. They came to this state. They came to other states in the South. There's only one more place for them to go, and that's Mexico. And if we don't think for a minute that this won't wind up like the textile industry, it absolutely will. And then we're going to be asking ourselves, what's going to replace them? What will replace these jobs? I don't see it. So let us know if you see anything, but definitely reach out to your suppliers. I would imagine they're paying attention, but certainly make sure that they know that they need to call you, and then let us know. Great question.
Thank you, Nan. Great question. Anybody else have questions for Clay? So Clay, I have two questions. First, when we were together this week, there was, of course, the what's going to happen with gambling.
I forgot about gaming.
I think we all wish we could.
We do. So from what I understand is the House wants to add sports betting back into the mix. The Senate pulled that out. They pulled other things out, but the House wants to add sports betting. The problem is if you add sports betting back in, you lose 3 senators, and that gets your count down to 20. You have to have 21. It being a constitutional amendment, you have to have 21. So I don't know. I don't know. I do know that they are trying to switch votes. There's obviously plenty of ways to do that. Projects, in districts and things like that. So I don't know. I think it is still very doable. I think with something like this, with this much focus on it, and with as many capable people that is is engaged in it, I still think it's certainly possible to get something through. But I mean, there is, I would literally would dare say, and this is why this continues to come up, but there is not a more complex issue in the state of Alabama than this issue. I mean, it is a multi-layered puzzle, three-dimensional puzzle that has a lot of moving parts. You add this, you lose it is incredibly complex. So I think literally it's probably 50-50 since we're talking about betting. I'd give it 50-50 odds right now of it going through.
So we have 5 legislative days left. What do you anticipate the next couple of weeks looking like? Are we still looking at May 9th, somewhere around there for sine die?
We think so. We think so. They'll do a 2-day week and then a 3-day week. I don't think there's any reason to kind of hold a day over. In other words, do two, and then one. Typically, the only reason you would do that is if you expect a veto from the governor. I don't see anything out there, could be wrong, that would necessitate a gubernatorial veto. So I think they do a 2 and a 3 and head home on the 9th. But that is subject to change with gaming still out there. You still have both budgets that are still out there. Obviously, they're companion supplementals, and so there's still a lot out there. Not to mention local bills and some confirmations, and the like. On the local bill front, there is a local bill that we do think is problematic, a slippery slope, and that is an Autauga County bill. Obviously, we don't like to get involved in local legislation. That is their business, but sometimes there are what you call local bills with statewide impact. And I think it's just one of those that we're just kind of drawing everybody's attention to it. It's actually a 7 mil property tax, which is fine. We, obviously are all for supporting our education system. It is for education. The problem is it allows an exemption. So not everybody's paying, which is not exactly fair. So if you own, look, I was a farmer, a big landowner. But if you're over 100 acres without a residence on it, you're exempted from this increase. But the other thing that it does that we're very uncomfortable with, that we actually missed at first, and some other organizations tipped us off on, because again, it references that code section. It eliminates current use in Autauga County. That's problematic. Current use is a unique way of how we assess. So we, not every, you assess what your tax is based off how the land is being used. It's a really good benefit for agriculture, which are businesses too. And that bill we're certainly monitoring to see what happens with that, because that is certainly a statewide or a local bill with statewide implications that you don't need to go down the road of exempting. When it comes to taxation, especially property tax, you need to treat everyone fairly, and that could be something that happens in every county. This is a constitutional amendment too. So we're not exactly sure that it is constitutional. We're verifying that, and it won't hurt, they'll still pass it. So.
Yeah. And for anybody that's interested in that, that's House Bill 450.
Yep.
Yeah, House Bill 450, if you want to take a look at that.
Mm. Yeah. And again, typically we don't, local bills are tricky, and they're tricky when you're a member of the legislature. I mean, they're very tricky. But I have seen several that are those local bills with statewide implications that can be a very, very slippery slope down the road. It's usually bills that there's no way in the world they would pass the entire legislature, but for being local. It's that kind of deal. Those things can be dangerous and usually big, overreaching government.
Yeah. All right. Anybody have anything else for Clay? We are not scheduled for another capital briefing next Friday. As you guys know, we do them every other week. But as we're coming down to the last 5 days, we'll stay in contact with the team downstairs. And if we see the need to call, do a called meeting in case something comes up that we need to communicate statewide. I feel certain that we could do that. So as always, Clay, thank you for great explanation, for keeping us up to date on what's happening in Montgomery. I will put a plug in. I've gone since I joined Alabama Chambers. If you're not attending the Governmental Affairs Conference in August, it's August 9th this year. Great opportunity, particularly if you are working specifically in the field of legislative affairs, to attend, to talk to your legislators. It's a great time down at the Grand in Point Clear. But just a great opportunity to be in the room in a little bit more of a relaxed atmosphere with the legislators. So just maybe put that on your calendar. All right.
We'd love to have y'all.
Yeah. Clay, anything else?
I don't think we may. I may ask a favor if we could maybe on the week after, if we could do it on that Thursday, perhaps, cause Friday I'm planning on taking a little break.
No, there's no break, no rest for the wicked, right?
That's true. I keep
We will,
doing.
yes, yeah, we'll take a look at that. I don't think that would be a problem from our standpoint. A lot of chambers have their board meetings on Thursday, but maybe we can schedule it at a time that will work. So we'll do that. We'll let you take a little break.
In reality, I'm probably I'll be in South Alabama at Senator Williams' place, and he there's no internet there at all. Matter of fact, it's a generator.
Fair enough. All right. I hope you guys have a beautiful weekend. Again, thank you guys for this week. I hope you went back re-energized, and we will hit the ground running. We'll see you next week.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, Clay.